You're alone in a quiet room, maybe reading, maybe deep in thought. Then, suddenly, hic! It catches you off guard. No food, no drink, no reason. And it hits you. What if that wasn't just a reflex, but the universe tapping you on the shoulder? It's easy to laugh it off, shake your head and go back to whatever you were doing. But what if that little jolt wasn't random? What if something inside you or something far beyond you was trying to say, "Hey, are you listening?" We dismiss so many of these subtle nudges because they don't come with fanfare or neon signs. They come as hiccups, as déjà vu, as dreams we forget by morning, as that weird song that plays at just the right moment, or someone saying exactly what we needed to hear before we even knew we needed to hear it. Spirit doesn't always shout. Sometimes it whispers. Sometimes it hums through our bones when we're lying awake at 3 a.m. Sometimes it shows up in the way the light falls across the floor just so, reminding us we're not alone. But here's the thing. We've trained ourselves to ignore the quiet messages. We're wired to wait for big signs, earthquakes, angels descending, miracles. But most of the time, the divine speaks softly, through people, through nature, through those strange little body quirks we chalk up to coincidence. Like that hiccup again, later that week. Or the one that won't go away no matter how many remedies you try. Or the dream where someone from your past shows up out of nowhere. Or the way your heart skips when a certain name pops into your mind uninvited. These aren't glitches, they're gateways. And the more you start paying attention, the more you realize you're being guided, not forced, not controlled, but gently nudged towards something truer, something deeper. Maybe you've been ignoring the ache in your chest, not because it's physical, but because it's emotional, spiritual, a calling disguised as discomfort. Or maybe the person who keeps irritating you is actually holding up a mirror, asking you to look closer at something you'd rather avoid. Sometimes the messages come through pain, sometimes through joy, sometimes through silence so thick it feels like a presence all its own. The soul doesn't speak in straight lines. It circles, it dances, it waits for you to slow down long enough to notice. So next time you get that hiccup, pause. Take a breath. Ask yourself, who or what might be trying to reach me? Because the truth is, you're not wandering through life alone. You're being whispered to all the time, by the wind, by memory, by love that never left, by a universe that adores you in ways too soft for words. And if you let yourself really listen to the hiccups, the dreams, the stillness between thoughts, you might just hear it, that quiet yes beneath everything, saying you're on the right path, even when it doesn't feel like it. Okay, so let's take a step back for a moment, before we go diving into the mystery of hiccups as messages or signs. Let's just talk about what a hiccup actually is, from a purely physical, down-to-earth standpoint. A hiccup happens when your diaphragm, the big dome-shaped muscle under your lungs that helps you breathe, spasms all of a sudden and without warning. When that happens, your vocal cords snap shut almost instantly, which creates that telltale hike sound. It's not something you plan. You don't see it coming. One second you're fine, the next you're caught off guard by this little hiccuping rhythm your body has decided to do on its own. Now, why does the diaphragm do that? Well, science says there are a few common triggers. Eating too fast, for example. When you scarf down food quickly, you tend to swallow air along with it, which can cause your stomach to expand rapidly and press against the diaphragm. That pressure might irritate the nerves connected to it, setting off the hiccup reflex. Drinking carbonated beverages or alcohol can have a similar effect. They bubble up and stretch the stomach, again nudging that diaphragm into a spasm. Stress or excitement can also play a role. Ever noticed how sometimes you get the hiccups during a tense moment or right after a big laugh? That sudden shift in your nervous system, like flipping a switch from calm to charged, can confuse the signals between your brain and diaphragm, causing it to twitch. Even sudden changes in temperature, like gulping down something icy cold right after eating something hot, can send mixed messages to your nerves and start the whole thing rolling. Hiccups usually don't last long, just a few seconds or minutes at most, but every now and then, someone gets stuck with them for hours or even days. Those cases are rare, though, and usually tied to some kind of underlying condition affecting the nerves or muscles involved. So, medically speaking, hiccups are mostly harmless. They're just one of those quirky things our bodies do, like sneezing or yawning, that remind us we're alive, wired, and full of surprises. But here's where it gets interesting. Even though we understand the mechanics, we still can't always explain why they happen when they do. Why that hiccup comes right after you finish a meal, or while you're sitting quietly thinking, or even mid-conversation like it's trying to interrupt something bigger. That's where the mystical side starts to peek through, not to replace the science, but to wonder if maybe, just maybe, our bodies are doing more than contracting muscles. Maybe they're responding to something deeper, something unseen, and maybe, every once in a while, a hiccup isn't just a hiccup. Maybe it's a whisper trying to be heard. So we've got the science down. Hiccups are involuntary, a diaphragm thing, usually harmless, often fleeting. But if you've ever had one come out of nowhere, in the middle of doing absolutely nothing, you might have felt it. That strange little interruption in your rhythm, like a beat skipped in your personal soundtrack. And maybe that's why so many cultures across time have looked at hiccups not just as a body glitch, but as a kind of signal, a subtle knock on the door from the unseen world. In parts of Asia, for example, there's a quiet belief that when you hiccup unexpectedly, someone, somewhere, is thinking about you. Not just casually wondering what you're up to, but holding you in their heart with enough energy to ripple across space and time. It's a beautiful thought, really. That love or longing could be so strong it leaves an imprint on your breath. In Turkey, they say hiccups can mean someone's about to show up, unannounced. An unexpected guest. You don't know who or when, but the hiccup is like a cosmic heads-up. Someone's on their way into your life again, whether you're ready or not. Now, in spiritual circles today, people are starting to see hiccups through another lens altogether, as energetic blips, chakra disturbances, psychic taps on the shoulder. The idea here is that our bodies aren't just physical machines, they're also vessels for energy, emotion, and spirit. And when something disrupts that flow, it might not always show up as a headache or fatigue. Sometimes it shows up as a hiccup. Think of it this way. Your diaphragm sits right at the center of your body, nestled between heart and belly. It's part of your breath, your voice, your core. And in many traditions, breath is more than oxygen. It's life force, spirit, intention. So when that rhythm gets interrupted, maybe it's not just about what you ate. Maybe it's about what you're carrying, what you're not saying, what needs to move through you but hasn't yet. Some folks believe that persistent hiccups can point to a shift in the solar plexus chakra, the energy center tied to personal power, confidence, and inner fire. Others connect them to the heart chakra, especially if the hiccups come during moments of emotional tension or release. And then there are those who swear that hiccups arrive just before a psychic download, a sudden insight, a message from a loved one who's passed, or a deep knowing rising to the surface. Like the universe has to tap twice because the first time was drowned out by distraction. None of this replaces the science. It simply builds upon it, adds color, depth, mystery. So next time a hiccup catches you off guard, maybe pause, not just to hold your breath or drink water, but to ask yourself gently, who might be thinking of me? What might I need to hear right now? Is there something my soul is trying to say? Because sometimes, the most ordinary moments hide the most extraordinary messages. And all it takes is one little hic to remind you, you're being spoken to, always. You know how sometimes life feels like it's moving at a steady hum, nothing too loud, nothing too wild. And then out of nowhere, you hiccup. No reason. Just a sudden jolt in your chest, like someone flicked the switch on your breath. It's strange, isn't it? How something so small can feel like it carries weight. Like maybe, just maybe, It's not just your body acting up, but something deeper trying to get through. There's this one friend who swears every time she gets a hiccup, something good is about to happen. Not always right away, but within the day, or even the week. She'll be folding laundry, minding her own business, and heck, there it is. And sure enough, minutes later, an email comes in with great news, or a call from someone she hasn't heard from in years. She calls them the universe's preview clip. Like the hiccup is a gentle tap before the good stuff rolls in. She says it's taught her to pause, breathe, and open up space for whatever's coming next. Like she's being asked to make room for joy before it arrives. Then there's another person I know who notices hiccups creeping in during moments of self-doubt. Right when they're questioning their worth or spiraling into that voice that says you're not enough. They'll be sitting alone, scrolling through old thoughts, feeling small and hic. It startles them out of it, like their higher self stepping in, nudging them back toward truth, reminding them, hey, remember who you really are. As if the hiccup breaks the spell of insecurity just long enough to let clarity slip in. After a while, they started recognizing the pattern. Started smiling when it happened, because it meant they were getting too deep in their head again, and spirit was gently pulling them back to center. Some people believe that hiccups mean someone who truly loves you, whether near or far, is thinking of you with real, soul-level affection. Not just passing thoughts, but full-hearted longing. Like their energy reaches out and brushes against yours, creating a ripple in your breath. Imagine that. That love doesn't need words or texts or signs. It just needs to feel, and somehow your body knows it. You might be walking down the street, lost in your thoughts, and suddenly hic. And without knowing why, you feel wrapped in warmth. Like someone unseen just whispered, I see you. I'm here. And then there's the idea that hiccups can point to blocked solar plexus energy, the center of personal power, confidence, and inner fire. When that chakra gets tangled, we might feel indecisive, stuck, or disconnected from our gut knowing. So when the hiccup hits, it's almost like a reset button, a way for your body to say, hey, wake up. Remember who you are. Step into your strength again. Especially if it happens when you're avoiding a hard decision or holding yourself back out of fear. Sometimes people say hiccups arrive when emotions have been building up inside, when something's been held too tightly. The hiccup becomes a release valve, a way for your system to discharge what's been bottled up. Maybe you've been holding on to grief, or frustration, or even joy that you haven't fully allowed yourself to feel, and the hiccup is like a little energetic sigh, a way for your body to say, it's okay, let it go now. Others believe hiccups act as a kind of spiritual shield, especially when you've been around heavy energy, or in situations where your aura might be absorbing more than it should, like your system instinctively contracts, protecting itself by interrupting the flow. A hiccup, in that moment, could be your energy saying, nope, not taking that on. Boundaries activated. And perhaps most simply, some say a hiccup is just a sign to ground, to pause, to come back to your breath. Because when we get too caught up in thought, in motion, in distraction, our bodies find ways to bring us back home. And sometimes, all it takes is a tiny hic to remind you, breathe, slow down, be here now, because maybe the divine doesn't always speak in thunder and lightning. Maybe it speaks in quiet interruptions, in unexpected rhythms, in hiccups that say, you're not alone, I'm with you. Listen. There's this one friend, let's call her Maya, who had been stuck in the same job for years. Not terrible, not great, just steady, predictable, safe. But deep down, she knew something was missing. She'd catch herself zoning out at her desk, staring at the ceiling like it might whisper answers to her. And then, one afternoon, hic, out of nowhere. No food, no drink, nothing. Just a hiccup that startled her so much she laughed out loud. She didn't think much of it until later that week when an email popped into her inbox. A former colleague was starting a new venture and wondered if she wanted in. It was exactly the kind of role she'd dreamed about, but never actively pursued. Within days, everything shifted. Interviews, offers, decisions. Suddenly, she was standing on the edge of something new. Looking back, she remembered that hiccup as the first ripple before the wave. The moment Spirit tapped her on the shoulder and said, "Hey, something's coming, get ready." She hadn't noticed it at the time, but that hike was the first sign she was being nudged toward what she truly wanted, even before she gave herself permission to go after it. Then there's another story, one that hits deeper. A man named Eli went through a season of grief after losing someone he loved. It wasn't dramatic in the way people talk about grief. It was quiet, heavy, persistent. He kept showing up to life, doing the things, smiling when needed, but inside, he felt numb, like he was walking around with a hollow chest. One night, sitting alone in his car after visiting the grave, he broke down, fully, completely, sobbing in a way he hadn't let himself before. And just as the tears started to slow, hic! It startled him, then another and another. At first, he was annoyed. Really? Now? But then, something shifted. The hiccups wouldn't stop, and instead of fighting them, he let go. Sat there, breath shaky, body trembling, letting whatever it was move through him. After a few minutes, they stopped. And so did the tightness in his chest. He described it later like this. It was like my body finally said, "Okay, we can start healing now." As if the hiccups were the release valve his soul had been waiting for, the point where all the held emotion could finally begin to flow again. He doesn't know why it happened when it did, but he does know that hiccup felt like more than reflex. It felt like relief, like permission, like love tapping gently on his ribs and saying, "You don't have to hold it all anymore." And maybe that's the thing, we don't always understand the timing. But sometimes, our bodies do the spiritual work before our minds even catch up. So maybe now, after all this, after the stories, the signs, the quiet nudges disguised as body quirks, you start to wonder, what if I just listened a little more closely? Because here's the truth, your body speaks in its own language. Not always words, not always logic, but sensation, rhythm, interruption. And sometimes that interruption is the most honest part of you trying to say something. So next time it happens, when you're mid-thought, mid-task, mid-breath, and that hiccup catches you off guard, don't rush past it. Don't brush it off as nothing. Pause. Just for a moment. Place your hand gently over your solar plexus, the soft spot just below your breastbone, above your belly, that center of fire and will and inner knowing. Let your palm rest there like you're holding space for something sacred, and ask yourself quietly, what am I holding that wants to move? Don't force an answer. Just let the question settle in, like a stone dropped into still water. Watch how the ripples spread. Maybe it's a thought you've been avoiding, a decision you've been putting off, a feeling you haven't fully let yourself feel. Or maybe someone you haven't spoken to in years suddenly pops into your mind. Not because they're random, but because they carry a message your soul remembers even if your brain doesn't. If you feel moved, grab a pen and paper. Journal whatever comes up. Doesn't have to make sense. Just write it down before it slips away. Sometimes the act of moving ink across the page helps move energy through the body. It's like giving your spirit permission to unload what it's been carrying. Or if writing feels too much, try a different kind of touch. Gently tap with your fingertips over the center of your chest, like you're knocking on the door of your own heart. Softly, slowly, as if you're saying, "I'm here. I hear you." You can move now. You might not understand the message right away. That's okay. Spirit works in layers. Sometimes the meaning arrives later, when you're folding laundry or walking the dog, or lying awake at night. Other times it lands in your lap, like a gift wrapped in silence. Either way, this small ritual becomes a bridge. Between body and soul, between breath and being. between what you know and what you're only beginning to remember. Because the truth is, we are always being guided, sometimes through people, sometimes through dreams, and sometimes through the quiet rhythm of our own hiccups. Think about this for a moment. Your body is not just flesh and bone. It's a living mirror, a reflection of everything you're holding, emotionally, energetically, spiritually. Just like your phone buzzes with notifications from the outside world, your body sends signals from the inside out, and sometimes those signals come in the form of a hiccup. We talk about mirrors all the time, how our relationships show us parts of ourselves we might not see, how our homes reflect our inner state, how even our devices can become extensions of our emotional patterns. But what we often forget is that our own bodies are the most honest mirrors of all. They don't lie, they don't pretend. They respond to what we're truly feeling, even when we tell ourselves otherwise. So what if that small spasm in your chest wasn't random? What if it wasn't just a muscle twitch or a digestive hiccup, but your intuition whispering louder than usual? Maybe because you've been ignoring something, maybe because you needed to pause, or maybe because spirit knows you won't stop otherwise. So it taps you right in the center of your breath, where it hurts and heals the most. The mirror principle teaches us that nothing shows up in our lives without a reason. If something keeps happening, whether it's people walking away, missed opportunities, or even physical sensations like hiccups, it's worth looking at what's reflected back to us. Because the outer world doesn't move without the inner one shifting first. When you hiccup unexpectedly, ask yourself, what part of me is trying to catch my attention? Is there something I'm resisting, someone I need to reach out to or let go of, a truth I've been avoiding, or maybe a joy I haven't allowed myself to fully receive? Your body is always speaking, sometimes through fatigue, sometimes through pain, sometimes through strange little rhythms that break your flow just long enough to make you wonder. And wonder is where wisdom begins. So next time you feel that sudden hic in your chest, instead of brushing it off, lean into it. Let it be a moment of connection rather than interruption. Place your hand over your heart or belly, breathe deeply and ask, what does my soul want me to know right now? Because the more you start listening to your body, not as a machine to be fixed, but as a sacred vessel of energy and emotion, the more you'll begin to trust its messages. And who knows, maybe the next time you hiccup, it won't feel like a glitch at all. Maybe it will feel like a blessing, a gentle reminder that you're alive, awake, and being guided. One soft hike at a time. You don't need to understand every signal. Just don't ignore them, because here's the truth. Your body is not broken. It's not malfunctioning, glitching, or betraying you when it does things like hiccup out of nowhere. If anything, it's doing the exact opposite, trying to keep you whole, trying to get your attention in the only way it knows how, through sensation, rhythm, pause. We've been taught to fear the unexpected, to label anything unusual as a problem to be fixed. But what if instead we saw these moments as invitations? Gentle nudges from a part of us that never stops caring, the intuitive voice beneath the noise, the quiet knowing wrapped in muscle and breath. You are not disconnected from spirit. You never have been. You're simply being asked to listen more deeply than you used to, not with your ears, but with your whole self, with your awareness, your feeling, your presence. Because the divine doesn't always speak through grand visions or burning bushes. Sometimes it speaks through a shift in your chest, a momentary disruption in your rhythm, a hiccup that makes you stop and wonder is where everything begins again. You don't have to have all the answers. You don't need to decode every message perfectly or rush to make sense of it all. All you need to do is open yourself to the possibility that something deeper is happening beneath the surface. That your body is not just surviving, but speaking, singing, whispering. Maybe that hiccup was someone thinking of you with love too strong to stay silent. Maybe it was your energy field adjusting, shifting, protecting. Maybe it was your soul reminding you to breathe, to ground, to release what no longer serves. Or maybe it was just a hiccup, and even then, it was still sacred, still worthy of your attention, because every time you pause for something small, you're training yourself to notice the big things too. So next time it happens, don't push it away, don't roll your eyes or try to force it gone. Instead, take a breath, place a hand over your heart or belly, ask what it might mean, and then wait. Listen. Let your body tell its story without rushing to edit it. You are being guided. You are being loved. You are being reminded that you are alive, aware and awake enough to hear the whispers. The divine is always speaking, sometimes through silence, sometimes through chills, and sometimes, just sometimes, through a hiccup. If you've ever had a hiccup that felt different, that came at just the right or wrong moment, that made you pause and wonder if something unseen was trying to reach you, I'd love to hear your story. Share it in the comments. Sometimes when we speak our experiences into the world, we help others recognize their own quiet miracles. And if you're starting to feel that pull towards something deeper, if these little body whispers are waking something up in you, and you want to go even further in tuning your energy field for clarity, healing, and gentle manifestation, I have something for you. It's a free ebook I wrote called The Magic of Affirmations. Not because affirmations are magic in the fairy tale sense, but because they can be in the soulful, everyday kind of way. The kind that helps you rewire your thoughts, soften your inner voice, and begin speaking to yourself like someone who deserves all the good this life has to offer. You'll find the link in the description. It's yours, no strings attached. Just say yes to receiving, because the truth is, you're already listening, and that's the most beautiful beginning of all. And if you're open to it, let this moment be a soft beginning, not an end. A hiccup in the rhythm of your day, yes, but also a reminder that life is full of these little pauses, these gentle nudges from the unseen. They don't always come with explanations or answers, but they do come with intention. The universe doesn't shout. It whispers through the hiccups, through the heartbeats, through the spaces between breaths. So when the next one comes, hic, don't rush past it. Let it linger for just a moment longer than usual. Feel it in your chest, not as an interruption, but as an invitation. An invitation to listen, to feel, to remember that you are more than your thoughts and your worries. You are a living, breathing conduit of light and love, and every signal your body sends is part of the beautiful language of your soul. And if you ever need help deciphering that language, know that there are others walking this path with you. Others who've felt the same strange spasm, the same quiet wonder, the same pull towards something deeper. We're all learning, all growing, all discovering what our bodies are trying to tell us. And sometimes that discovery starts with the smallest of signs, a hiccup, a pause, a question whispered into the stillness. So go ahead, breathe, listen, trust. Your body knows the way home.